Well, thank you for coming back, everyone. It's been a while. Hope you had a great Pesach and you're having a great Omed. We're working our way towards Shavuot. Yesterday's Perashiyot, tazria, metzorah. Hopefully, give you some interesting things you can think about on what some people think is boring Perashiyot. And so the tazria, metzorah, we're talking mostly about the person who has sara'at. It's a bad translation. It shouldn't be translated as leprosy, but let's just call it leprosy. So someone has leprosy, and we know it can go on the body, it can go on the clothing, it can go on the home. Eventually, once they become tameh, they have to go to the Kohen. They have to go to the Kohen to be tameh. They could be the biggest rabbi in the whole world, know the whole book by heart, all the laws of Sara'at. They cannot declare themselves tameh. Only the Kohen can say tameh. And only the Kohen can say tahor. Fine. After the whole process, they have to do a couple of sacrifices, and they take the hyssop, the eres, the cedar, and they mix it all up. They dip the bird in it, and it's a kind of a weird ceremony, very similar to the para aduma, the red heifer, very similar, where they grind the ashes, they mix it with the same ingredients. And so if you look over there, Rashi says, I think it's pretty well known, Rashi says, why these ingredients? Why the cedar tree, which is very tall, and the hyssop? Is that how you pronounce it? The hyssop or the hyssop? Hyssop. The hyssop, which is a very low bush. And Rashi says, I think everyone should know this by now, Rashi says, the cedar tree is the tallest tree, and the hyssop is the lowest bush. And so therefore, we're telling the person, you had such ga'ava, you were so haughty, now you need to be humble. That's a very famous Rashi. Sara'at came for a bunch of reasons. Why did a person get leprosy? The Gemara gives 7 reasons, and the Zohar gives other reasons, and the most famous reason is Lashon Hara, right? Rambam writes this in his Moreh Nebuchim, Rambam in his Guide to the Perplexed. He talks about Sara'at from a very rational perspective, as he always does, or he tries to, and he says it's because of Lashon Hara. Rambam writes in Moreh Nebuchim, he gives lots of reasons for different mitzvot, Rambam. He says, I don't know why they brought the cedar tree. I have no idea why. Rambam writes this. I don't know why they brought the cedar tree. What does it have to do with anything? And I haven't found any satisfactory reason. This is what Rambam writes. Rashi says what he says about being humbled. The question is, if you want to be humbled, just bring the hyssop tree, the humble bush. If you want to be humbled, what do you got to bring the cedar tree for? The cedar tree is about haughtiness. Sara'at can come from being haughty. It's one of the things that Sara'at comes onto a person, God forbid, because they're being very haughty. Hashem despises ga'ava. Hashem hates haughty. I don't want to say he hates people, but he cannot reside with haughty people. Adonai malach ge'ut labesh. Hashem is the only one who can be ga'ava. There can't be 2 kings in the castle. Hashem says, if you think you're the king of the world, I'm the king of the world. We can't both live in the same house. I'm sorry. Hashem malach ge'ut labesh. Hashem is the only one who's up there. Ga'ava is a turnoff. Personally, for me also, I always tell my wife, I can stand a lot of people I can tolerate. Haughty people are such a turnoff. Like, you just don't like being around these types of people. They think that they're God's gift to mankind. And so ga'ava is one reason why sara'at can come to a person, and now the person has to go down and be humbled. The question is that she's explaining the bush. Rambam has no reason at all. Why bring the tall cedar tree? There's a beautiful reason from the Hidushei Harim, the Ger Rebbe. The Hidushei Harim says, you can be humble and you can be humble. You can be humble saying, I'm a nobody, I'm a piece of trash, I'm a failure. That's not humility. That's beating yourself down. Saying that you're a nobody is not being humble. True humility and healthy humility is saying, I am a great person. Everything I have is from Hashem. And so I shouldn't get credit for being this great person that I am. I shouldn't be praised or get honor for being such a great person. What did I do? Hashem gave me a good brain. Hashem gave me good looks, let's say somebody. Hashem gave me wealth. What's it got to do with me? And so I'm not saying I'm trash. I'm not trash. A billionaire is not going to say, oh, I'm such a nobody. You're not a nobody. You're a billionaire. You can basically do anything you want. So don't lie to yourself. Say the truth. True humility, says the Chidushei HaRim, is when you say, I am a cedar tree. That is what I am. I've been growing my whole life. I'm learning. I'm a good person. I help people. I am a cedar tree. I'm tall. At the same time, compared to where the source of my goodness comes from, compared to Hashem, I'm a hisap. I'm tiny. Which means, like we've said a few times from the Tanya, the Lubavitcher Sefer, he writes about this a lot. Compare yourself to a bright light. I am a bright flashlight. I'm a big, huge bonfire. I'm on fire. You could be on fire. However, the closer you bring this light to the sun, the less that light matters, right? If you have a dark room and you turn your phone on, it lights up. You can't sleep, right? If someone has the phone on and you're trying to sleep in a dark room, lower the brightness or even your own eyes will hurt. You take the phone outside in a sunny day, it's the opposite. You can't even see the phone in a sunny day. You need to turn the brightness all the way up, right? And so your light is a light. Don't say you're not a light. You're a light. Just the closer you compare yourself to the source of the light, the less you are. That's it. Don't take yourself down. And so tzaddikim, who are higher than us and closer to Hashem, are closer to the sun, even though they're bigger light, they're less. They see themselves as less because they see themselves as closer to the source. That's humility. And so the humility is taking both things at the same time. I am a cedar tree. I am also a hyssop. Another thing the Ger Rebbe says, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, sometimes you need to be strong. Sometimes you need to put your foot down. And not always, sometimes. If someone is doing something and you have the power to stop it in a good way and do good, you have to put your foot down. And don't say, oh, who am I? Who am I to open my mouth? Who am I to, a great example. They used to ask me to say the halachot. I don't want to say halachot. I just want to pray. Yeah. No, say halachot. What am I supposed to say? Who am I? I'm a nobody. I just want to pray. Then the whole room's not going to learn the halakha. Or I get up and say, you know what? I got to do it. Like the Pirkei Avot says, if there's nobody there, you got to be the man. And so get up and do it. And everyone benefits. And so sometimes you got to be a cedar tree. You got to know when to play each card. Just walking around all your life saying, I'm nobody, I'm just a shmata, I'm very humble. That's not humility. That's not healthy. That's not a way to grow. And so when this guy who was so haughty, he was way up there, and he was smashed down by the sarat, which is very embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Everybody knows that Hashem pointed him out. Everybody knows. You can't hide that. And so you were on top of the world. You were the guy. Imagine the guy is wearing a black hat and a beard and payas. Imagine, because we don't know what's in the hearts of people. And so the sarat can come for anyone because Hashem knows the inside of people. Just imagine the guy that's praying for 5 hours with the black hat and the beard and the payas, and all of a sudden he gets a sarat. You're like, what? That guy? That guy? That's what he's all about on the inside? It's embarrassing. His whole world is smashed. This whole game he was playing, where he has this image of what he is smashed. It's very embarrassing. As Hashem says, before you go all the way down to the gutter, I want to pick you up a little bit. Be the guy. Be strong, but channel it. Very important lesson. Additionally, they bring two birds. Two birds. Why birds? Rashi again. Rashi says, because the birds, this is the original Twitter, right? Rashi says the birds tweet. The birds tweet, and you tweet. You don't stop. So you talk so much, you don't stop talking. You get yourself in trouble. Say lashon hara, you got sarat. And so we bring the birds to remind you to keep your mouth shut. This is Rashi. And so the same question: why two birds? Why not one bird? And so I saw a nice answer. It's the same answer from Jeremy Finn. Jeremy Finn says, because the answer is not, okay, I'm never talking again. I'm keeping my mouth shut. Don't talk to me. I don't want sarat. I don't want this. Don't talk to me. Ta'ani tibur. The answer is not ta'ani tibur. The first word is brought to say, this is what you were doing. Tweet, 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 tweet all day long. The second bird is to tell you you should be tweeting all day long good stuff. I heard someone say, Rabbi Frand writes in his book, he says, the Hafetz Haim is the Lashon Hara, Rabbi. Everyone knows, if you want to learn the laws of Lashon Hara, you got to learn Hafetz Chaim. Hafetz Chaim is Lashon Hara. So he says, you may think the Hafetz Haim was like this all day long. He didn't, not an extra word. He was quiet. He never said Lashon Hara. He said his rabbi grew up with the Hafetz Haim, and that he didn't stop talking. That's what he writes in his book. He was so talkative, he never stopped, but in a kosher way. And so it's the same lesson. The answer to adversity is not to shut down. Maybe shut down for a second and reset, but you got to live your life. You got to speak. You got to talk. You got to grow. You just have to have in mind Hashem. Remember Hashem is on top of you. You'll be good. That's it. Compare yourself to the source of light and live your life and shine and talk and be a cedar tree. Fine. Okay. Now, the sarat, as the Torah says, be'od besaro se'et osapahat. It's in the skin of his flesh. That's what the Torah says. Be'od besaro. Od is leather. It's not, leather is skin of an animal, right? So od is also skin, right? The skin of a person, that's human leather. Yeah. So od besaro, the skin of his flesh, se'et osapahat. So Fatima says, what are you going to tell me? The skin of the flesh. Just say a person that has sara'at on his flesh, if you want to say it, on the od besaro, on the skin of his flesh. Where else would it be? All we have is skin on top of us. Where else? If it's not on the skin, where is it? In the eye? Of course it's on the skin. And Sfat Emet tells us, think about the original sin of mankind. Adam and Hava in Gan Eden, when we were on the pinnacle. And then the snake gave the fruit to Hava to eat, and she gave it to Adam, and they didn't listen to Hashem, and they made that first critical sin, and we're still paying the price. Right after that, they realized they were naked, so Hashem made for them kotnot or, clothing of leather. So it says in the Torah. Kotnot or vayalbishem. He made for them cloaks of leather and clothed them. Very commonly known, I believe the Zohar says this, kotnot od with the ayin is leather. Also can be kotnot od with the aleph, which is light. And so Hashem made for them skin of leather / skin of light. What does this mean? Od, skin, comes from the word also iver, blind. Before the sin of the Etz Hadat, there was only goodness. There was no Yetzer Hara inside of us. Everything was good. After the sin of the Etz Hadat, now we don't have to choose between goodness and evil. What's good, what's bad, it's all convoluted. It's hard to figure out what's good and bad in this world. As we see the world around us right now, struggling and failing at this right now. What is good, what is bad? Hashem said, after the sin, I have to put a solid skin on your body. The Zohar says it was all nailed. It was like a nail beforehand. Nail's translucent. You can kind of see through it a little bit, which means the light of Hashem on the outside and the light of your neshama on the inside would be seen. It could be like clear almost, right? Transparent. Thank you. After that, we closed off the light. And so now we're closed. The skin, you can't see through it. It's not translucent, right? That makes you iver. It makes you blind to the goodness that's inside of you and the goodness that's outside of you. Now, a person, you don't know what he's all about just by looking at him. Like we said, the first guy with the payas and the black hat, he could be a rasha. You don't know. It's all hidden. We're in a world of blindness now. We're trying to work our way out of that. And so the original sin was called not od. The original sin was done with lashon hara, because it was all at the mouth of the nahash. How did the Yetzer Hara, Satan, get us the sin? With his mouth. He told Hava, he said, why don't you eat from it? Hashem said not to. Nah, Hashem is afraid of you. He doesn't want you to eat it because he doesn't want you to be like him. He used his mouth, his speaking mouth, to get us to sin. It was all, that's lashon hara. Lashon hara is the original sin in creation. And so now when a person uses his mouth and says sara'at, and says lashon hara, and sara'at comes to him, Hashem says it's going to be on the od besaro. It's on the skin, which means look at the body, look at the sara'at I'm giving you. Remember, sara'at is almost like a last resort. A person, Hashem sends signs to you all day long. He's trying to talk to you. Not everyone is a prophet, so he doesn't use words. Hashem sends signs. Do teshuvah. He gives you a kapara, a wake-up call. Sara'at is when you don't get the messages. This guy is going down and he doesn't get the messages. He doesn't get the wake-up call. He doesn't hear the alarm clock. And Hashem says, hello, wake up. It's not working. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put a spot right on your body. Look at it. I'm talking to you. Shape up. You're going down. You need to shape up. Sara'at is a last resort. It's a chesed. It's kindness from Hashem. Hashem is waking you up. And so the person is sinning so much, Hashem says, look at your skin. Do you remember the kotnot od? Remember the skin of Adam? Why do you have skin? Because Adam Arishon sinned. Because Hava and Adam sinned. That's why you even have this skin in the first place. How did they come do that sin? Because of lashon hara. That's what you're doing. You're doing a replay of the first sin. Change your ways. That's why it says kotnot od. Leather, skin. That's why it says be'od besaro. In the skin of his flesh, that's where the sara'at is. We're supposed to look at it and think about these things.
That's why the serpent is the lowest one.
He was chopped down. Yeah.
No legs.
No.
Yes.
He was on legs.
The lowest.
After that, he was chopped down to his belly.
They lose the skin, right? And you can see through the skin.
The skin of the serpent is.
Yeah, you can see through the skin. When they live.
Beautiful. Yes. Because they shed the what's it called?
Remember,
they shed their skin.
Remember the Gan Eden, because you see
you should see it.
The nail. It's like nails, the skin of the.
Beautiful. Yes. We're supposed to look at the skin and remember this.
Yes.
Zera Shimshon, he also goes down this path, and he says a very powerful idea like this. He says, Nahash, the original snake. One of the words our Torah, our Parashah uses for the Tzara'at is shehin. Shehin is like a boil. Shehin is the same word as Nahash, same letters as Nahash. Nahash, the snake, is the reason why you have the shehin. When you see the shehin on your body, you should say to yourself, oh man, shehin, that's from Nahash. I'm doing the same thing he did. You're supposed to get the message. Zera Shimshon adds, and he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a midrash. Midrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu complained to Hashem. Hashem said to Moshe, this is the laws of the metzorah. Okay, you got it? When the guy has a thing, he has to go to the Kohen. So he goes to, as it says, Aharon HaKohen or his kids. Specifies Aharon HaKohen. Or his kids. Aharon checks him out. So Aharon is like the leprosy doctor. Imagine the guy it's embarrassing. The guy has some sort of disease. You got to go call the Kohen over. He's got to check you out. What if it's in a place that's like he has to take his clothes off to show the Kohen? Is this nice to the Kohen? So Moshe says to Hashem, Midrash says, why should Aharon have to do this job? I don't want Aharon. It's below his dignity to do this job. What is he, the skin doctor? Is dermatologist? He's a Kohen. And so Hashem answers, this is the words of the Midrash. Hashem answers Moshe and says, didn't I give Aharon 24 gifts? We give 24 gifts to the Kohanim, not now. In the times of the temple, the Kohanim got 24 gifts. Terumah, the meat from the korbanot, all these things, benefits from being Kohen. The Kohanim were the original Kolel guys. That's Kohanim. Kohanim, they were teachers, they were learners, they worked in the temple, they didn't work. They got a stipend from us. They got 24 gifts. Chaf dalad matanot kiuna. And so Hashem says to Moshe, what are you complaining about Aharon? What? He doesn't want to do the job? He got 24 gifts. My father always used to tell me growing up, this might be controversial, but my father, I think he's right. My father used to tell me all the time growing up, he said, I don't understand. I understand Kolel. And also the community that I grew up in, the Syrian community, Kolel was a new concept. Now there's hundreds of thousands of guys in Kolel because it's the thing to do. But growing up, it was like a lot of the Syrian traditional guys, like, what's with this Kolel stuff? They don't work. They learn all day long. And so my father used to tell me, I don't understand. I get that they work all day. Okay, I got it. I concede. And they're living off of us. I got it. I can work with this. Why don't they do anything for us? Why don't they come to the shul? Why don't they give classes? What are they being paid for? What are we supporting them for? Where's the payback here? You could say the same thing for Israel, by the way. Yom HaAtzmaut is coming. You could say the same thing for Israel, in my opinion. I think if the left side of Israel felt that the right side was giving something back to them, it would be a lot easier, maybe. Maybe it's too late now. But the Kohanim, in the real design, they did give the stuff back to us. They taught us. They were the teachers. And so one of the things they had to do, says Hashem in the Midrash, they got to be a dermatologist. If you have a problem with the leprosy, call your Kohen, call the local Kohen. Hey, Mr. Cohen, come on over. Inspect my back. I got something on there. My wife says I have a spot on the back. And so he's got to do it. It's his job. It's his job. That's why you're getting the gifts I give you. That's why you get the Turumah I give you. The question is, says the Hashem Shon, what does the 24 gifts have to do with anything? Does this seem like a fair answer? I mean, is this really the conversation that Moshe and Hashem is having? Why does Adam have to do it? Because he's getting 24 gifts. And so why does he give 24 gifts anyway? And why not a Hacham? Why can't anyone else do? Why only the Kohen? Only the Kohen can do the Tameh process, not a rabbi. By the way, it's so a nice answer why Aharon has to be the dermatologist here is because one of the top excuses people give when they see Lashon Hara is, but it's true, right? Don't talk about someone, right? So we have a conversation, the person's going off. You say, no, let's not talk about him, but it's true. That's one of the common excuses. Doesn't matter if it's true. It's Lashon Hara. And so Aharon HaKohen did the opposite. He was Ohev Shalom v'Odef Shalom. He used to go to someone and say, you know what, this person told me he really loves you. He wants to make peace. Not true. He used to lie, because you can lie for peace. And so Aharon HaKohen would lie. He would say, Sheker, for Shalom, you should learn from him, because you're so busy saying Emet for not Shalom. That's why Aharon is the perfect guy. You need to learn from him. But why 24 gifts? What is the connection? The Midrash is telling us 24 gifts. That's why this all should make sense. Okay. So the Hashem Shon says what I think is a beautiful pshat, and it's just like what the Sifat Emet starts saying, like I said, when it comes to the Od and the Hoteshani with the Od, with the leather, thinking about the original sin of the snake. The Zohar says, and the Midrash, it says in the Pasuk, when Adam married Hava, when Adam married Eve, Hashem created this woman and brought her to man. It says, Vaybi'eha el ha'isha. El Adam, sorry. And he brought her to the man. Vaybi'eha is 24. Vaybi'eha. And he brought her, is the value of that is 24. Says the Zohar, Hashem adorned Hava with 24 beautiful cosmetics or jewelries from Hashem. Imagine Hashem's jewelry. He made her have this beauty, this charm, so that Adam would want her. She would be beautiful to him. Vaybi'eha la'isha, 24 went to the man. 24 beautiful cosmetic jewelry pieces from Hashem. This was the original design from Hashem. The woman was adorned. The woman is the crown. Hashem's handiwork. However, when she did the sin and she listened to the snake, the Gemara Shabbat says the snake injected inside of her impurity. So it says in the Gemara that the snake slept with Hava. However, the Ben Ish Chai says it's not literal. It was a mental adultery. She got so close to him and she did exactly what the snake wanted, not what her husband wanted, which is mental adultery. She went with his will instead of her husband's will. And so the snake spiritually injected into the woman and flipped these 24 charms into 24 streams of impurity. Some people say literally he slept with her. Ben Ish Chai says not literally. It's a question. Why? Why would you say literally? Because it says, when it says Hanahash Hishiani, the woman, when Hashem said to the woman, what did you do? You ate from the fruit? And she answers, Hanahash Hishiani. The snake, Hishiani, give me a word, translation. Hanahash Hishiani, the snake made me guilty. The snake made me do it. But she says in the Gemara, Hanahash Hisiani, the snake married me. That's why you would say he lived with her. So you can do it figurative or literal. Ben Ish Chai says it's not literal. However, she lost the 24 charms and was flipped. And now those 24 charms are owned by the bad side. And they became 24 streams of Tum'ah. The original design was for us to be born with these 24 charms from Hashem. Imagine how charming we would be. The light of Hashem. We would inherit this from our mothers. However, it was flipped, and now we inherit 24 bad tum'ot that we have to flip over. Only with our work we can try to flip them back over to get back to the grace of God. That's our job. Okay. After Hashem punishes the snake, and Hashem goes to the snake and says, what did you do? He actually didn't ask the snake, what did you do? He asked Adam, what did you do? He asked Hava, what did you do? He didn't ask the snake, what did you do? The hammer came down on the snake. He doesn't get a chance to answer. He says, Ve'eba ashit benecha uben ha'isha. One of the punishments of the snake was, Ve'eba ashit benecha uben ha'isha. I will place a hatred between you and the woman. You got so close to her. You, quote unquote, had adultery with this woman. You convinced her you own her brain. You have a mental hold on her. I'm going to make a hatred between you and her kids and your kids. People hate snakes and snakes hate people. Ve'eva ashit. I will place a hatred. Ve'eva means hatred. What is the gematria? Ve'eva? 24. Ve'eva ashit benecha uben ha'isha. I will place 24 between you and the woman. You took her 24 charms. Now it's a battle between you, your kids, and her kids to see who gets the 24. Do we flip it back over for the good, or is it 24 flip for the bad? When they count the worst things a person can do, God forbid, Rambam, in his laws, he writes, there are some things that are so bad that we put a person, God forbid, in hayrim, in nidui, excommunication. How many things are there that a person can do that gets nidui? 24 things. Exactly 24 things a person can do, God forbid, that gets excommunication. Because the 24 powers of Tum'ah that are owned by the snake now, it was ours. The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara was the original sin of the snake. Which book do we read on Tisha B'Av? We read Echa, Megillat Echa. Echa Yasheva Badad Ha'ira Batiyam. Take the first few words, the first letter of each word. Echa, Aleph. Yasheva, Yud. Badad, Bet. Ha'id, Hey. Ve'eba. 24. The hatred of the snake and the people caused the destruction of the temple. Also 24. How do we fix it? We fix it by watching, number one, our tongue and not imitating the original sin. We can also use Shabbat and Torah to fix it. And so Hashem, Gemara says, gave us a huge gift. This gift was Matan Torah. Gemara says, by Har Sinai, when we got the Torah, Gemara Shabbat. Hasku Zohamatan Shel Hanahash. The evil venom of the snake stopped at Matan Torah. We completely defeated the snake when we got to the Torah. This was on Saturday. Matan Torah was on Saturday. When we did the Egel, it came right back. We temporarily defeated the snake. When we did the Egel, it came back. And so it says there, Shimshon, Shabbat, which was the day the Torah was given, is a day where we can really work to beat this Satan and get the 24 charms back. 24, Veshamenu Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat. Vav, Bet, Yud, Aleph, Bet, Ve'eba. Hatred. 24. Is it any wonder that Friday night is the night when a man and a woman should be together? This is the night to beat the snake and get back to us. Get him out of here. Kick the snake out of the relationship. It's Adam and Hava. Ve'eba 24. When did we sin again with our speech? In the desert? With the spies. Melagilim. They spoke bad about Israel. When they got their punishment for speaking Lashon Hara about Israel, Hashem says to the people, Ufigrechem atem yipelu bamidbar hazeh. Your corpses are going to be stuck in this desert. You're not going in. Ufigrechem vav atem aleph yipelu yod bamidbar bet hazeh he ve'eba. 24. You guys sinned with Lashon Hara against the land. You're doing the same sin we're talking about. You keep repeating the sin of the snake. You're switching the 24 charms for the 24 streams of Tumah. Megalei Amukot says, almost, not yet, there's more. Megalei Amukot says, Moshe's final prayer to Hashem before he died, his final prayer, Vayet Hanan El Hashem Ba'et Hahi. I prayed to Hashem at this time. What was his final prayer? Vayet Hanan El Aleph Hashem Yud Bet Ba'et He Hahi Hashem Ve'eba. Get rid of it. We want the 24 back. Unfortunately, we're still fighting for the 24. Ziyad Shimshon says, how many types of boils, shihin, nahash, are there? There are 24 categories of shihin. Because the 24 categories of shihin is for the nahash. It all came from the ve'eba. Now let us resume and go back to our original question. Moshe says to Hashem, Hashem, why should Aharon HaKohen be the dermatologist? Hashem answers him, doesn't he get the 24 gifts to the Kohanim? He is fixing the 24. He's the one who watches with his speech and brings love to one another. He gets 24 gifts from you. You all give the Kohen 24 gifts to try to make up for the 24 charms we lost. He's the guy that should do the job. How many shifts of Kohanim were there in the year? There were 24 mishmarot. The Kohanim were all divided into 24 family shifts. Exactly 24 Kohanim, and each Kohen got 24 gifts. All this to try to combat the one simple avon of Lashon Hara, of using the mouth the wrong way, which flipped the 24 charms to 24 tumot. This is what we're doing in this world. We're battling this original problem.
24 Kohanim, right? 24
shifts. 24 shifts comprised of different families. Yeah. Yeah, they took shifts, 2 weeks each. 24 and 24 gifts.
That's why we have 24 hours.
24 hours in a day. Very good. I didn't think about that.
24 hours you need to fix.
What else you got? You got more? What else is 24? Very nice. It's all ve'eva and the hatred between us and the snake. That's what we're trying to do here, and we still haven't accomplished it. And so a person gets sara'at, God forbid, and he looks at his skin. Now he's seeing a whole different picture. This is why it's so beautiful. The one thing I told you, I did yesterday when I'm reading the Torah, and I did a horrible job yesterday because this is the most impossible parasha to read. All the different words, it's crazy. And so I told you, there's only one thing I can think about. I think I told you this. So maybe someone. There's only one thing I'm thinking about the entire reading as I'm suffering through the reading yesterday. The Gemara Sanhedrin says there was never sara'at on a house. There was never sara'at on a clothing. It never happened. The Gemara Sanhedrin says. Gemara Sanhedrin says just like a ben sorer moreh never happened. The wayward child. There was never a case that it happened in a house. There's never a case that happened on the clothes. And so, why is it written in the Torah? And the answer, Gemara says, "Dirosh v'kabel schar." Read it and get reward. It's a lesson for you to learn from, not a lesson you have to actually experience. And so, all I can think about yesterday is, Hashem, you're killing me here with this prashiyot. It never even happened. It's never gonna happen. Why do you have to do this for? Hashem has a sense of humor. But what's the point? The answer is because the whole point of this is to look at the sarat, and look at the skin and say, oh, this is all happening because of what happened in Gan Eden. Why do I have skin in the first place? Why is it not clear? Why am I blind and are you dead? Like, because of the sin. And how did that sin happen? Because we listened to the Lashon Hara of the Nahash, what he spoke bad. And that's why I have the Sarat. And that's why I have to go to the Kohen. And he needs 24 Mishmarot, 24 ve'eva, 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 ve'eva. This is all you need. Once you realize this, the job is done. It doesn't have to actually happen. I have to say, there is one opinion in the Gemara that says, one rabbi says, I think it was Rabbi Eliezer, he says, actually, there was one home in the border. This is actually pretty funny. There was one home that I saw on the border in Gaza, which is Gaza, that was a Sarat house. So that's what he says in the Gemara Sanhedrin. So the one house on record, maybe according to one person, was a Gaza house. But other than that, everyone else holds it never happened. The whole point is to learn the lesson. Not that it has to happen. We have to think about these things.
How many students died from that?
24,000. Yeah, very good.
24.
Very good. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I was thinking about that before. Very good. Your name is Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, we're in the Omen now. Rabbi Akiva, 24,000 students died because they didn't have honor and respect one to another. It's the same problem repeating itself over and over and over again. And we still have the problem. Like I said, look at Israel. We still have the problem. We can't speak nicely to each other. We can't get along. If we do that, we're going to be stuck in the snake's 24. We would like to get out of the snake's 24. Wouldn't it be nice if we can have children and they're born with 24 charms from Hashem? No, instead, they're born with 24 tum'ot that they have to try to work out. Thank you, Rabbi Akiva. And so how do we kosher ourselves from having sarat? Let's say someone had sarat. How do they kosher themselves? And so there's actually a very interesting halakha. And so remember, the guy with sarat, he's on the lowest of the low, right? He doesn't listen to any signs, and he's all the way down there, and Hashem says, it's gotten so bad, I need to put a spot where everyone can see. It's very embarrassing. However, there's an interesting halakha. And this is why sarat is not called leprosy. Because sarat is not a physical disease. It's not a physical disease that's contagious. Why? Couple of reasons. Number one, when we spoke about last year, I think, if the entire body is sarat, he's kosher. If part of the body is sarat, it's not kosher. He's tameh. But if his entire body has sarat, it's tahor. If it was a physical disease, that would be even worse. Why are you letting him walk on the streets? He's completely covered in sarat. The answer is it's not a physical thing. It's not a kuris. It's a spiritual disease. Okay? We spoke about that last year. There's also other halachot. If a person has sarat and he's getting married, he's a hatan or kala. The halakha is, we tell the kohen, don't check him out yet. Just wait. But it looks like sarat, don't check him out yet. Let him have his wedding. Let him get married. Let him do the mitzvah. Afterwards, we'll check him out. Which means the mitzvah pushes away the tum'ah of sarat. But isn't he tameh? How could you push away something that's tameh? Doesn't he have the disease? the mitzvah, Hashem says, I gave you the mitzvah, and I'm telling you the mitzvah can push away the disease. There's another halakha. If a person has a spot on his body, and it's the holiday, it's Pesach or Sukkot, Hashem says, don't check it out yet. Just wait. Let the holiday go by, and then you can check it out. Why? The holiday pushes off the tum'ah. So there's a concept that the mitzvot that a person is occupying himself with can deflect and push off the terrible punishment that he's getting. And that's another clue of what to do if a person is feeling down in the dumps. A person is so low, they don't know where to pick themselves up from. They have sara'at. Everyone knows. The gig is up. Everyone knows. They've been outed. What can you do? You can either work hard to fight the badness or just jump into some goodness. Get involved in a mitzvah. It'll push off the sara'at. But there's even another level, the highest level. Brit Milah pushes Shabbat, right? We know the Brit Milah, like the rabbi said in Shul, if a baby has a Brit Milah, only on the 8th day pushes Shabbat. If the Brit Milah, if the baby has jaundice and they can't do it on the 8th day, you can't have a Brit on the 9th or the 10th day on Shabbat. Only an 8-day Brit pushes Shabbat. No other Brit Milah pushes Shabbat. But there's an interesting halakha. It is asur from the Torah to cut out sara'at from the body. It says you cannot remove sara'at. Why would someone want to do this? Well, Hashem sent a little thing here. Change your ways. He doesn't want to change his ways. And so instead of going to the dermatologist Kohen, he's going to the real dermatologist. Hey, scoop this thing out, please. Get rid of this thing. I don't want this sara'at. Get it off of me. Asur from the Torah to remove the sara'at. It's forbidden. What if a baby has sara'at right on the Brit Milah? Imagine. What's the halakha? Brit Milah, you have to cut off the foreskin. The foreskin has sara'at. It's forbidden from the Torah to cut off the sara'at. What do you do? What do you think?
The Brit Milah is sober. Like you say.
It's a mitzvah, but why does this mitzvah beat the other mitzvah? There's usually a concept of aseh dorhe lo ta'aseh. There's usually a concept out there. The positive commandment always beats the negative commandment, usually. But you can't say that, Gemara says, for this case. Because the sara'at is a negative commandment, don't remove the sara'at, and also a positive commandment. It says in Devarim, be careful with the sara'at, that's a positive. So sara'at is actually 2 mitzvot. Don't cut it out and be careful with it. And Shabbat is 1 mitzvah. And Brit Milah is 1 mitzvah. However, the Gemara on Shabbat says, we read in the Torah yesterday, Ubayom hashemini yimol besad orlato. On the 8th day, you should cut the flesh of his foreskin. Which word is extra in this pasuk? On the 8th day, you should cut the flesh of his foreskin. Ubayom hashemini yimol besad orlato. What do you have to say besad, his flesh? Just say, on the 8th day, you cut his foreskin. Gemara says, what is Hashem trying to tell us? Cut the flesh. Even if the flesh has sara'at, it's coming off. And so that's how the Gemara says in Shabbat, sara'at loses to Brit Milah. You can actually not only deflect it and push it off like the holiday and deal with it later, you cut it out of your body completely. It is gone if the baby has sara'at. And so that's even more powerful of an idea. The Brit Milah cuts it out completely. The Lubavitch Rebbe has a beautiful talk. It's a whole thing. We won't get into it. Whether the mitzvot deflect sara'at or completely cancel sara'at. Interesting thought experiment. When a person's a groom or a bride or on a holiday, is it that he has sara'at, but it's pending till afterwards? Or we look at it, there is no sara'at here. He's in a mitzvah, it's not here. 2 ways to look at it.
That's why you said the parasha is starting with.
That's how it starts with that. Yeah. The parasha starts with the Brit Milah and it goes right into the sara'at. Exactly. And so, hey. I was waiting for that question. And so I would answer you the same answer. Dirosh v'kabel schar. it's probably not happening. Like the Gemara says, it's probably not happening. It's only the lesson we take from it. It's all about the lesson. When you have a mitzvah, so a person could be down in the dumps and they can't pick themselves up. They can't fix their habits. They're just a mess. What do? Another option. Jump into some goodness. Just get involved. Go to Tomchei Shabbos and make some food boxes for people. Just go give some poor people. Get involved in a mitzvah. It'll get you rolling. You gotta you have to charge the car with the you gotta get it going. Okay. I just want to repeat last thing. I want to repeat what I said Friday night. Apologies, Uncle Jack, you heard this already, because it's on the same theme. Last piece. Because I think this is a very powerful lesson. It's an interesting concept. The final step towards becoming pure. So let's say this guy had the salat. He went to the Kohen, he said Tameh, he counted his days, he goes back, okay, now the salat is removed. You gotta go bring the korban. You gotta do the mixture with the hyssop and all that. The halakha, it says in the Torah, he has to be sprinkled with the blood of the korban. Where is he sprinkled? On his tinuch ozno hemanit, on the ear. 10 points if you remember. One time we said, what is a tinuch? It's a mahloket. Is it the lobe or is it the middle of the ear? Remember this? No? Remember this? Most people say the ear lobe, but Rambam says it's the middle of the ear, not the ear lobe. Okay? Tinuch ozno hemanit. He has to be sprinkled with the blood on his right ear. He has to be sprinkled. Ve'abohen yado hemanit. He has to be sprinkled on his right thumb. And he has to be sprinkled on his big, let's call it the daddy toe. Yeah, the big toe and the big thumb toe. Okay. There's a problem. As we said Friday night in Shul. There's a problem. The problem is the blood he's taking was from a sacrifice. The blood of the sacrifice cannot exit the premises of the temple. It's holy blood. The man who's tameh, sarat, he's trying to become tahor, cannot enter the temple because he's impure. And he's a catch-22. It's like we need a job, and the job says experience required. Oh, how am I supposed to get experience if I don't have a job? It's a catch-22. And so I can't go into the temple to be sprinkled because I'm tameh, but that's the only way I become tahor, is to be sprinkled. What do you want from me? So the Mishnah Negaim says, here's what you do. Right by the borderline between the Ezat Nashim, where he was allowed to go, in the main section, where he can walk around, right before the holier area of the Ezat Israel, the Kohen would bring the blood all the way as far as he's allowed to, in the kosher area. The Sarat, the metzorah, would go all the way as far as he's allowed to as an impure person. Now they're right facing each other. There may be a couple of inches or a half an inch or maybe a foot away from each other. The Mishnah says, what does he do? He sticks his body in the impure area because he is impure, and he leans forward with his head, and his head goes into the pure area, and he gets sprinkled with the blood on his right ear. He pulls his head back in, he sticks his arm into the pure area, and they sprinkle his thumb. He puts his thumb back in, now comes the foot, the daddy toe. He sticks that into the kosher air, imagine, and he's not allowed to walk in the place. Once he does that, he's on his way home. It's amazing. Why is it amazing to me? You are impure. You're the lowest of the impures. No one else has this requirement. There is no other tum'ah that has this whole requirement of being sprinkled. A nidah doesn't have to be sprinkled with blood when she's finished. Only the metzorah. Why? Because he's the lowest of all the low. Like I said, he didn't get the signs. He had something on his body. You're the lowest of all the low. You're a rasha, probably. And you cannot walk into the kosher temple. How can you stick your head into the temple? How could you stick your hand into the temple? Hashem must be saying to us, sometimes you can't do it on your own. You've hit rock bottom. There is no way, mathematically, you get back from this. You need to turn your life around. I'm going to throw you a lifeboat. I allow you to stick your head into my temple. Even though your head is not pure, your whole body is too much. Stick your head into the temple. pull it back out. Stick your thumb into the temple. Stick your foot into the temple. Hashem is helping him. I'm bending the rules. I'm not going to let the holy blood go into the impure area. That's not what I'm bending. He could have done that. I'm not bringing the blood out. What's holy is holy. I'm bringing you in. I'm saying, come on here. Stick your head in here. I'm going to help you out. That's the only way for you to be pure. It's an amazing halakha from the Mishnah. And so the lesson for us is also, sometimes for us, we feel family members, if you're here today, you're probably good. The people who are not here today, how many people are not here today? People are low. They're stuck in a rut. They've been doing things for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and they don't know how to turn their life around. You have to throw them a lifeboat. Hashem says, stick your head in the shul. You can even walk your whole body in the shul. Stick your whole body in the shul. Come in, grab one mitzvah. Hashem helps the person. I'll make the first move. I'll bend my rule for you. And we should imitate Hashem. Bring the person to your Shabbat table. Bring the person. He doesn't keep Shabbat. Bring the person to your Shabbat table. Finished. We have to extend the first hand. We have to make the first move like Hashem does. Bend the rule a little bit. It's the only way you'll get the person back. And so this is how Hashem says it's never too late, you're never too low, even a metzorah. All he has to do is look at his skin. And us, even without tzara'at these days, look at your skin. Just look at your skin. This whole thing we just spoke about should come to your head instantly. And we should watch our mouths. We should only speak nicely to each other. And hopefully with that, we get the 24 charms, the 24 cosmetics, the 24 adornments back. That's when Mashiach comes. Thank you for coming. Have a nice weekend.
So, the sun, that's why the rabbi said the sun is going